When I heard they were giving me the stripper Mitsubishi, I was kind of like, if I'm being honest. But at the end of the day,
DFW's Cars here, coming to you from beautiful Padre Islands, Texas, and we are with the Mitsubishi Lancer today, which is just a really pretty car, and this is a great setting for a car that's, history is in a lot of autocross rallying, in the dirt and mud and things like that. So this is not the Evo edition, this is actually the special edition of the base model, which we'll talk about. And it's actually was a pretty fun car and at a great price. So let's go ahead and get into it now, shall we?
Store with a fair amount of thrust. So there's not a lot of springing on this door. Honestly, for the longest time cars didn't have it. You pull it shut, it closes with a nice authoritative thud. Not a big deal, just something when you test drive it, you don't know to expect that. You don't need those big fancy hinges to help you push the door closed. You just close it yourself. Throw in this moonroof for free, and I love, especially with this color, it wouldn't work on the black, how that kind of just looks almost like a panoramic there. So that's really cool. Special edition does come with sport seats with this red stitching that look pretty cool and also work well, in addition to aluminum pedals. Sorry, it's sandy, we were at the beach earlier. The Value Edition also gives you this red stitching here, which is really neat looking. Gauges are nice on this car. The steering we'll talk about in a little bit in the drive review. It is an electric system, so if you follow cars a lot, you'll know that unless it's Porsche or Cadillac or a sports car company like that, it's really hard to get the electric systems right. Maybe Mitsubishi did it, since this is the car the Evo was based on. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, also part of the value package, along with this little red bit in here in the trim. It really kind of makes the car sparkle and stand out. So this is a nice screen. It is 4 speakers, but you could add a couple of tweeters and a subwoofer for very affordably and have a rockin' stereo. Or you could just get the Roxford Fosgate if you weren't trying to keep to that $19,000 budget. It does come standard with automatic climate controls, which look nice. They have chrome surrounds. It is a little bit of a throwback. It has a gated shifter, which is mated to a CVT, which we'll talk about in the drive review. And then just more of this sporty looking red stitching up here. And also on the console here. Very briefly around back, because this is a 4-door sedan. It's pretty spacious for a compact. I would almost say this has like more, and maybe it is rated as a midsize. I'd almost say it has more midsize, dimensions, because granted I'm slouching a little, but I have plenty of headroom, and 2 6-feet people would have plenty of leg room as well. And as always, on a car with an exhaust that may sound good or interesting, let's get a listen to that. Alright guys, on to my favorite part of the review, the drive part. This car is what the Evo used to be based on. This is, however, the smaller engine version, which I'll just tell you right off the bat. It's adequate, it's okay, it's good for the class. If you do a lot of passing, or it does tend to run out of steam because a non-turbocharged base 2-liter engine. If your budget will allow it, opt for the bigger engine. At least that's how how I'd go about it. All right, the CVT is the other issue. We'll just talk on a couple areas of improvement that Mitsubishi can make. CVTs are kind of here to stay a lot in this class. Nissan's, pretty committed to them. Nissan's done a good job, though, on the CVT, getting them to simulate gear shifts and getting it to feel less rubber bandy. This one is very smooth. If you've never driven a CVT, it's a lot like driving a golf cart. You can accelerate from 0 to 100 and never feel a gear shift. Another improvement is the steering. Now, this car has no sport button. Alright, change the angle of the camera up here to show you why no sport button matters. Alright, so I'm at 10. This is barely moving the car. Watch that seam. And I talk a lot ad nauseum about this in my other Mitsubishi review. This is the company who built legendary race cars and cars like the Evo and cars, before that were really performance cars. Just put a sport button on. I understand BMW has started this trend of less steering effort equals better, which is ironic because they were one of the best in the business. And Mitsubishi seems to have bought into that. The other problem with there not being a sport button, I know you say, I don't need a sport button, right? Even if you're not a sporty driver, there's no sport mode on the transmission because of that. So there's drive, or there is a low range mode. That's it. So I put it in low, where I normally, would use the sport button to get tighter steering and better, performance. So now that we're done with that, let's go on to the awesome stuff that Mitsubishi doesn't need to improve. The chassis of this car is good. This is the base model, not a sport model, not a performance model. I would say it's kind of similar to the new Civic, not the sport touring trim, but just the base trim. It's definitely probably a little sportier than the Corolla. Chassis, I think, with a little suspension tuning, could be as good as the Mazda. It's a little softer. It does have a little bit softer ride than the Mazda. So if you're just absolutely needing the performance and need to be in this budget and can't go to a higher model of this car, maybe the Mazda is the way to go. But that does mean this car has a slightly more comfortable ride. And back to that steering, at speeds at like 40, 60, 80, it does weight up nicely. But a lot of times when you're doing turns, you're at below 30, 50 miles an hour. Another thing I like about this car is it's efficient in terms of gas mileage. The fuel economy on this car is absolutely incredible. And it's just kind of fun. It puts a little smile on your face. It's a car that, with that limited edition package, it has everything, a younger person or a first-time buyer, really anyone would want in the car. Bluetooth, CarPlay, moonroof, sports seats, and all the exterior, details as well. And they're free. You can't beat that. On the Elantra, you would have to get a sport edition of the Elantra, which costs more money, to get a lot of these style updates. There are no performance updates, so I know probably the Evo won't come back unless we all go buy Mitsubishis. Go do it right now. And then the Lancer becomes so popular with the tuner crowd that they see a market again for the Evo. But until that happens, I do wish, and the last area of improvement on the would I buy this car with my own money, is I wish there was, I wish mine had like a sport package that just tightened the steering, that gave me the bigger engine, and that gave me, a tighter tuned suspension. Because if so, this is probably the only compact car outside of, the, say, Civic Si, which is in a higher class, that can give the Mazda 3 a run for its money in terms of performance. And I don't say that lightly. If you've seen any of my Mazda reviews, I've reviewed pretty much every variant of Mazda 3, sedan, either hatchback or wagon, depending what you want to call it, and the SUV-based one. And I've loved all of those. They set some benchmarks. I guess you could call me a Mazda fanboy. This Mitsubishi, I gotta admit, I'm fanboying for this car a little bit too, just because they've done such a good job packaging this car under 20 grand. Most cars, if you get the base model, you get a stripper. This one, I wouldn't be, embarrassed. Bring it to my high school, bring it to my college friends, bring it to my first job, bring it to work, bring it to a neighborhood party. What I'm getting at is the final verdict is no matter what your age, if you're 16 or 60, this car has a great balance and offers a little bit of something for everyone. And what I mean by that is, if you put it through a turn, it will not, go absolutely crazy. So if you like to drive a little sporty, I took it on a 1,000-mile plus road trip, and it was great. It was cruising at 100 miles an hour at a low RPM. I mean, the speed limit was 100 where I happened to be. At a low RPM, and smooth, pretty quiet, and I thought I was in a $30,000 car, not a $19,000 car. Probably cross-shop this car with the new Civic. This one's going to give you a lot more bang for your buck. You'll also probably cross-shop this car with the Mazda 3. This car is going to give you probably also a little bit more bang for your buck. The one area, the Mazda 3, some people choose a car based on style, and all three are very different. I don't see the Elantra cross-shopping with this too much. I would recommend this over the base Elantra a little bit, just because the, Elantra Limiteds and the Elantra Sports are pretty nice. The base Elantras, this gives you a lot more kit and a lot more fun and bang and excitement for your money. So overall, I liked this car. I was pleasantly impressed. I heard they were giving me the stripper Mitsubishi. I was kind of like, if I'm being honest. But at the end of the day, this car is great. Not just great at 19,000, great at 25,000, which is, you know, 20% more. So 25% more, which is many percent more. This car is not just great at So if I had to leave you guys with one sentence about this car is not just great at 19 grand, which is what I've stressed a lot. This car would be good at 25 grand, minus the couple of areas of improvement I mentioned. I would, in that case, not hesitate to recommend it to you if you're looking for a great balance in a car. Next time, my Speedy Racers, drive on. All right, guys, it is... Let me just... Until next time, my Speedy Racers, drive on.